Hey y'all, I told you I would be coming to you with a video, and I'm out here running. You saw my post this morning was, what's your forest bath look like? Well, my forest is water. It always has been, always will be. I do love to go hiking and stuff with my hubby and kiddos, but this is my happy place. And I told you yesterday that I would come on here and share a bit about my story in regards to simplification and minimization. And this is it. This is a huge part of it. And I think it's mainly comes into mindfulness. And I know that this is a keyword, a tag word that you're hearing all the time, and it can get kind of annoying because you're like, what does that even mean? Or I suck at that. I don't want to practice meditation. I am totally one of those people. Like, yoga and me are like, no. It's more like putting ice into lukewarm water. That's me with yoga. Like, I don't mind it. I love the result, which is the nice cold water, but it takes me a long time to warm up. And so when people talk about mindfulness, I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not good at it. And then I was listening to a podcast by Kasha Fitzgerald called Empower Her. It's so good. Definitely check it out. It's great for mindfulness and business growth. But the guest she had on today, Kathy, was talking about how mindfulness is so much more than actually practicing meditation. Meditation is so much more than sitting in a yoga pose and counting or breathing. It's about walking from your bed to your bathroom and focusing on your heel toe. It's about running in the sand and focusing on how the sand feels between your feet and your toes. I know some people hate that, but for me it's heaven. It's about running and looking at the clouds and the animals and seeing the joy of the people as I'm running by with my little puppy who doesn't seem like she could run miles, but she can. Mindfulness is being present. And so how does that apply to simplification and minimization? I started noticing as I was letting go of a lot of interior mess, a lot of interior junk several years back, that I was walking into a space, which was my home, that was cluttered and filled with junk and things that didn't really matter. They were exterior pictures. They were corner pieces and wall hangings that had a ton of little figurines or picture frames or books, or, don't get me wrong, I love my bookshelf, but just things that didn't carry weight. Yeah, they had memory, but even was the memory something I could carry within and not needing an exterior force to weigh me down, that I didn't have to pack away one day when I moved. I wasn't in the state of moving. I was still in the midst of two little kids, so of course junk with mama life is kind of necessary to keep you sane in some regard. But I started decluttering, and I watched the Minimalist Netflix. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it before. And I also watched the Marie Kondo, but that was actually a year later, so the Minimalist was what got me started. And I started taking inventory, not only of the things that were inside of me, because that was where the deep work was happening, but on the things outside of me. And I started letting go. I packed boxes of stuff. I got rid of bins of clothes. I had like bins for every season in my attic that I would then change out and put more bins. Then the style would change the following year, and only half of those clothes would be used, but I would still keep the bins. And I don't know what I was doing it for. It was essentially hoarding, just not to the maximum level. And if you walked into my house, I think for the most part I had great taste, and it wasn't so cluttered that you would think of a hoarder by any means. I thought it was tastefully done at the time. But as I started letting go, equally we started renovating our house. And so walls started getting knocked down. And it's so good how God walked me through a restoration and renovation process of my soul while the same thing was happening in my house. Only He could plan that and predict that, and now for me to have this tangible visual explanation for other people, it's pretty powerful. So I am knocking down walls, and it's time to redecorate. And at this point I have already minimized a lot. I had to get rid of hutches that were in the corner, or wall hanging shelving units that displayed things. But now, instead of the wall-to-wall, 90s, 80s style building, we had this complete open space. and there was no walls other than the exterior walls of the 4 walls that housed what was 5 rooms, now 1 giant room. And I felt free when I walked into my house. I felt just openness. I felt that I had the ability to actually connect with the things that mattered. That the things I was touching or the things that I was looking at actually had such specific purpose for where they were placed, that my husband and I could actually see each other at all times when we were in the main living room. That might drive some of you crazy and also scare you. It was a scary thing because I was walking through a lot of hard things within my heart. I was mothering. I felt like I needed space in my kitchen so that they were in the other room playing. Now I saw them 24/7. I also saw the mess when they were cluttering, but then I also saw the cleanliness when we put it all away at the end of the day and they were sleeping. And so just a lot of visuals were taking place while I was decluttering the inside of my life. And what does that mean? You can learn about it in the book that I just published, but that was a co-authored piece that you're only going to get a sneak peek. But other women, you can see similar situations as they are unfolding and realizing the grace of God is simple. The love of Jesus is simple. Building a business is simple. You guys, it's not about all of the systems and structures and the stuff. It's not about all the things that clutter your website or having all the things that you need for building a business, all the resources that you think you need. You don't. I've told you this before. If you're in core, like, you have the resources. God has already gifted it to you. He had already gifted me this beautiful home, and yet I was trying to put a mask on it, trying to put more inside that would show value or worth, show memory. But they say home is where the heart is, and I didn't understand that until I knocked down the walls and I started investigating the purpose of each of those things. So I would challenge you as you are developing this business, maybe before you continue to build that exterior space, maybe you should declutter. Maybe you should minimize the things that are around you, both physically, but then even more importantly, internally. Grasp hold of the one thing that matters, the simplicity of Jesus, the simplicity of mindfulness, the simplicity of meditation. And I promise you, as you approach your business with these new eyes, with this new heart, with this free space, with this clutter-free interior, that you will actually get to experience such beauty, such freedom, such power. And people who are now your consumers or your customers or your community members, like you guys, can sense that. You can sense the ease. You can sense the joy. You can sense the mindfulness and the purpose that go into the things that I do. I do them with you in mind because I felt really alone in my process of simplification. And I don't want other people to feel that way. So if this is something that you want to address more and go deeper in, I would love to talk to you. I'd love to unpack what it is that you feel might be cluttering your mind, your body, or your soul. The simplification goes so far into even your refrigerator, you guys. I go into people's homes and I see refrigerators, fridges, and I open them up and there are condiments that have not been touched in years. Why? Why do you have that there? You can't use it. It's just filling space. It's also collecting quote unquote dust or molding. Check your expiration date, y'all. That goes for everything. Check the expiration date. Are the pounds of clothes you have in bins, are they expired? Are the toys that you're holding on to from your kid's childhood, are they expired? I'm gonna bet yes. I'm also gonna bet when you let go of it, and you release it, and you realize that memory is within your heart. Peace is within your soul. Home is where the heart is, not where the things are. I could now at any point pack a bag for the weekend, show up somewhere else, and decide I'm never going home. And I would be content. I would have everything that I need. Because everything that we need is right here, is right here, is right here. So I love you guys. Blessings to your beautiful Memorial Day weekend. Chime in. I'd love to hear comments about how this makes you feel. What does this evoke inside of you? What things do you feel like you need to release right now that you could let go of, you could declutter this very weekend? Use this time. Quarantine is a gift. Don't let the enemy fool you. And know that you are purposed in your passions. But the more simplicity you bring to them, the more other people sense the peace and they want to come in to know what it is that you're selling. Because ultimately, y'all, we're selling Jesus. We're selling love and light. All right, I'm really done now. See you soon.